these guys are going to start losing wins to their competitors who are just trying to play spoiler and maybe get back into the championship fight themselves. If McLaren doesn't say, look, Lando, we gave you almost half the season, it's Oscar's turn, bro. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Around the Circuit, Apollo Media's Formula One podcast. As always, I'm Junior, joined by my boys here, Mark and Ivan. How we doing, boys? Just off the rip, how we doing? How we feeling?
I'm just used to it at this point.
Used to it?
Honestly, I'm just used to it. But I'm
Ivan?
still going to crash out. Like, it's going to happen.
Stressful weekend. Moment of silence for all the wildlife we lost in racing this weekend. Shout out to the groundhog and to the rabbit families. We are looking out when we are with you this weekend.
Yeah, man, I'm feeling good. I mean, it could have been a little bit better.
We know you are.
We've never seen him with that much energy.
Weekend for me, but the Canadian Grand Prix came, it went. Lance Stroll, it was a big talking point for us last week. He came and he raced at home.
Didn't do much.
He was out in Q1 and didn't do much, but hey, he raced at home.
I hope that fan section was allowed because,
yeah.
They had nothing to cheer for.
What do you go there as a Lance Stroll fan? Like, you've been there so many years. He's never even gotten on the podium or like barely gotten the points of that race. Like,
I don't know, man.
It's like, we're going to talk about this. It's kind of like Mark and I with like our teams. Like, at what point do you just say, this is how it's going to be?
I think that's where they have to be there by now. But yeah, man, Mercedes. I said it last week. They were probably going to be fast here in Canada. I had George taking P2 on my predictions, and he took the win.
Yeah.
As the resident George, I won't say hater. That's kind of far.
Dislike.
But I give him credit. He pulled that crazy lap in qualifying.
Yeah.
He had pole last year too, so he took pole 2 years in a row. He killed it at qualifying, and then Mercedes did their thing. Kimi got his first podium. We had a double podium from Mercedes, and we got to see our kid Kimi, the little brother out there doing big action. Took his first podium. So shout out Mercedes. They had a great weekend. Yeah, man. I mean, I was honestly nervous about Max being P2 going into turn one with George. The beef from last race, the one penalty point away from a ban. We managed to avoid pretty much.
Yeah, let's be real. Each week we say that turn one's gonna be this catastrophe, and never been.
It really hasn't been. I think I saw something this weekend that said like turn one has been. We've gone through turn one clean in like the last like 20 something races.
Yeah,
like going back to last year. So we always expect something, but lately it's been pretty clean. And even with George and Max being P1 and 2, they went into it. They came out clean. Kimi had that amazing move on Oscar. Snatched P3 and pretty much never gave it back. Speaking of Oscar.
Okay.
The McLaren boys.
Yeah.
Say it.
Papaya rolls out the goddamn window, man. Jesus Christ.
Papaya rolls out the window.
Jesus Christ. What the... I'm just...
Hey, man, look. We knew it was coming. It took till round 10, but we knew they were going to be racing. They were racing hard. I don't know what the fuck Lando was going for. I don't know where he saw the gap that there was on the inside on that. We had three laps left, bro. 3 laps left in the race. And
those past couple of laps, Lando was really just behind, and he was actually being patient.
Yeah.
He was being good. He's being patient, looking for his moment. Took the dive and that long chicane. I forget which turn it is. And got past, but, Piastri hit the switchback, got back, and then at this moment, we're all hyped. We're like, holy shit, it's happening.
It's happening.
Like, these boys are going at it. They're side by side down that long main straight. I'm like, fuck yes. Like, let's go. Like, we're finally getting it. And then Piastri gets by. What the fuck was that, Lando? There was no gap there. Like, and the other side on the right was completely open to go to. And instead, he tries to go on the inside.
I know coming off that straight, they were coming down the front straight, going into turn one at that moment.
Yeah.
I know that if he would have went on the outside, they're taking that right turn. Maybe that's not what he was looking for. He knew there was going to be a move there that might have been tight. I don't know, man. I think you got to take your shot there versus going
I mean, yeah, but when you look at the onboard, you could see him go for it and then realize, oh, there's nothing here, but it's way too
Way
late
too
for him to
late.
back
Yeah,
up.
way too late.
So he just destroys his front wing, clips the left wheel, and is just out of the race. Like, I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie. The fact when he hit the wall after he lost the front wing, Oscar's car snatched that front wing off.
Yeah.
And then he just lost everything. You know, he bounced off the wall. He bounced off of it a couple of times before
Yeah.
the front suspension finally gave. That wheel broke, and then it was all over from there.
And it was crazy because, like, the POV that we got when the crash happened live,
Mhm.
all you saw was smoke. So at that moment, I didn't know if he took out Piastri too.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, are we gonna get a double DNF from the McLarens? But no, it was. I mean, I'm not wishing that upon him,
Yeah.
but it would have made things interesting.
I have not seen the Senna quote more than I have this past weekend. No lie. If you don't, and the Senna quote for those not familiar with it is if you see a gap as a racing driver and you don't go for it, are you even a racing driver? Yeah, Lando had that mentality to a T this weekend.
Took it a little too.
Yeah,
too
I mean,
seriously.
there was a slight gap, but like the gap was never gonna stay there. That's just the bend in the road the way it went. I don't know what the heck he was thinking. That was one of those moves where you're like, you know, you had your chance to push, brother. Maybe you should have just laid back and waited for the next DRS zone. It's good to see them fight first off, though.
Yeah.
It's always good when you see two teammates allowed to fight each other. But at the same time, man, it's just such a bummer because that move by Oscar into the final turn before the straight, that was something else. Because to be that brave on the brakes was insane.
Yeah.
I think that the onboard cam that we saw, or not even the overhead cam, it was the overhead view. The way you just saw how early Lando hit the brakes, and then Oscar just shot like a bullet through that chicane. It was nuts. They were getting after it. They were getting active, man. It was fun to watch. We knew it was going to happen. It finally came to, and what's crazy is like Zach Brown and Andrea Stella, you know, the leaders over at McLaren, they can't even really sit them down and be like, okay, guys, we said y'all could race, but don't touch. It's not like either one of, I mean, Lando did screw up, but it's not like they were going aggressively at each other that caused an incident. Lando just, I don't know, just bobbled
and I'll give it to him. Like immediately after Lando was like, "Yeah, that's my fault.
Yeah,
idiot move." So
yeah. I mean,
I'll give it to him. He was very mature about it. But you know, I've been trying to root for Lando. I've been trying, but each week he just keep proving the haters right.
I've said it once to y'all, and I don't know if I've said it on camera yet, but Lando is a good driver. Lando kind of reminds me of George. You know, George got the win, but they kind of remind me when they're in a good car, they're good enough to take wins here and there. They're good enough to take podiums. They're good enough to put up a decent fight at the front, but I don't know if they're championship material. And that might be saying a lot on George because we've never really seen him be prioritized in a championship fight. So as much as I like to see, you know, hate every now and then, it's that might be saying a little much. We're seeing Lando in the middle of a championship fight right now. He's got the best car.
Yeah.
And his only rival right now is his teammate. And his teammate, Oscar, is just running away with it.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about early in the season too. One of them was going to have to come out and say, I'm the number one driver. You prioritize me now to win this championship. We're almost halfway through the season now. We're going into round 11 in Austria. There's some tracks where Mercedes are going to look good like they did. Max is going to look good like he did. You know, we're getting into these long, fast tracks where these guys are going to start losing wins to their competitors who are just trying to play spoiler and maybe get back into the championship fight themselves. If McLaren doesn't say, look, Lando, we gave you almost half the season, it's Oscar's turn, bro. We tried. This is what's going to happen now. He's got 5 wins to your 2, and he's out qualifying you. He's outperforming you. Like, he's out racing you wheel to wheel. Like,
yes.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be interesting to see if they do that.
Unfortunately, Lando just doesn't have the mentality.
Yeah,
he just doesn't. I mean, compared to other guys like Max, Piastri, he just doesn't have that championship mentality yet. He overthinks too much. You could just tell he just, as of right now, he just doesn't have it.
He don't have it.
He does not have that championship mentality that a driver needs to compete.
for me, he kind of reminds me, and this pains me because I'm a fan of both, honestly. He reminds me a lot of Danny Rick and Bottas mixed into one. He's gotten the opportunities to be a number one like Ricardo did, and he's gotten wins like Ricardo did, but the main difference is that window for him was so small that he was able to get the wins. Because pretty much, I mean, being honest, he just ran Danny Rick out of the team at McLaren, so they brought in Oscar. So then obviously he's promoted to number one now because Daniel was a number one before, Lando started picking it up. But now all of a sudden it's been, I think, what's this, Oscar's fourth year, right? Is it fourth or third year?
Third year.
Third year. So it's only his third year. So in 3 years' time, he's caught up to you. It's eerily similar to what other drivers have had to go through. I still think he has what it takes talent-wise to be a world champion, but I don't think he has, like you said, the mentality.
Yeah.
It's just something where you can't make these mistakes this many often and expect to have everything else fall your way.
Yeah.
Like for this week, if you would have been a little more patient, the championship fight would still be a lot closer than what it is now, because kind of like we talked about with Max last week, throwing away points is something you can't do in a championship. And shoot, Oscar was going for his 8th podium to like tie Lewis's record for most podiums in a row for McLaren. So when you have another driver across from you that's doing that, and then you are a driver that's either I'm really, really hot or I'm not in the points, that's not going to get the job done.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. And it's not even saying that like Lando has just like a terrible mentality and that he's not like, there's a lot of times where you see him too. He prefers, and he's even come out and said it. He said, I'm going to race the way I want to race. However that ends up, it is what it is. This is how I feel like I should be able to race. He's too nice.
Yeah.
Oscar, we've seen Oscar go wheel to wheel with Max. We know Max is probably the most aggressive driver on the grid, but we've seen Oscar go wheel to wheel with Max already this year, and we've seen how that played out. We know, even though I hate to say it, we've seen George go wheel to wheel with Max, and it's, the aggression is maybe not as equal because I think Max is always going to out-aggress his opponents, but it's there. They're going to put up that fight against him, whereas I feel like when it comes to that moment, Lando, he cracks under the pressure.
Yeah.
And he's more focused on, this is how I want to race. I'm going to be the nice guy. And he loses out when it comes to it, or the pressure gets too much. And then those little mistakes that he makes here and there become big mistakes like we saw this weekend.
Yeah.
So it's tough, man, because you wanted to root for the kid. And, I talk a lot of mess. I'm a Max fan, so I talk a lot of mess on Lando. I talk a lot of mess on George. But at the end of the day, they're both good drivers. They're both in really good cars right now. I think we've said it before, it's crazy to see where Mercedes has kind of turned the corner from last year coming in. Even after Lewis left, it makes you wonder maybe if Lewis would have been a little more patient with the team. Could something be there this year for him or not?
I mean, yeah, probably looking at it now, but when you look back,
hindsight's always, it's always easy to look back and say what could have been.
I just think that had more to do. He'll never admit it, but at least in my opinion, that had to do with them not listening to him for like the 2 years.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's anything Mercedes could have said to keep him there, just because he was like, I've won all these championships and y'all still aren't listening to me.
Yeah,
exactly.
That played a huge part. And then I think too, I think he kind of knew what he was getting into with Ferrari. I mean, there's no secret that Ferrari has struggled strategically and struggled to perform, pit stop, like the little things that help you win in an F1 championship. It's been right up front and center for the last how many years now?
Yeah.
I think it's no surprise to him that he came into it and he's still experiencing these issues. But when you race in red in an F1 car, there's you're building kind of a legacy there.
Yeah.
He's one of if not the greatest driver to ever step foot in a F1 cockpit for, as of right now.
Yeah.
It's him, Michael Schumacher, and then you got a list of other guys that could maybe compete. You got Senna, Max is working his way up there. I wouldn't say he's the best ever. He's best on the track right now, but
yeah.
when you look at him, he's Prost. I mean, you look at the legends, he's surpassed all of them except one.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You've already built that legacy. You've already built the Hall of Fame career, for lack of better, words. why not go race in red, even if there are issues?
Yeah.
I think it sucks right now. You know, like I said, we're 10 races in
Yeah.
and you've seen the issues. And he's just had some bad luck because,
Yeah.
I mean,
A groundhog?
Are
you kidding me?
He had damage last week or last race, not last week. He had damage in the floor damage in the last race.
Yeah.
I don't remember what they said caused it,
I don't even.
but I know it
remember
was.
either.
It was something crazy, and he didn't even know about it until after the race and after the press. But then a groundhog took him out this race,
and then there was some other problems too. I don't exactly remember. Besides the groundhog,
yeah,
there were other problems with the car as well.
And what's crazy is that Lewis was struggling. The Ferrari struggled all weekend. They looked. I told Myra this because me and her were talking about it in qualifying. They looked fast in all 3 practice sessions, and I was like, man, this might be the weekend they get on the podium again. They make some noise, and then they hit qualifying. They got through Q1 and Q2, and then they hit Q3, and they were like, that scene in what is it, We're the Millers, where he's like, you guys are getting paid? That was almost like what Ferrari looked at. Is like they hit Q3, and Max and McLaren and Mercedes, they're all putting, gaining 2, 3, 4 tenths on their laps, and Ferrari's like, wait, you guys are going faster? Like, this is all we got. We got here. We're sitting P6, P7.
Yeah.
They're forever 5 and 6 almost, it seems like.
Yeah, for the rest of the season, that's what it looks like. That's all it's gonna be.
They don't have any luck at Canada ever. Think of last year and then think of like, man, they need to catch a break there. I also wanted to get y'all's thoughts because, man, this driver had a long weekend. Man, Hadjar had a weekend. I'll just say that.
Yeah,
Hadjar had a weekend.
Yeah. A lot of drivers had bad weekends.
I wanted to see, because I can get what Charles was saying. What do y'all think about that? Not interference, but the dirty air issue that he said about in Q3. Man, I thought that was just on the edge of being so far away where it was. He
probably caught dirty air.
Yeah,
but I actually had this exact conversation with Myra. He was already frustrated because he was trying to push the car. He was trying to get even more out of it because, like I said, they looked at everybody else and they're gaining time.
Yeah,
and so the Ferrari is just like plateaued, like they couldn't go anymore. So he's pushing this car, and I don't think he expected Isaac to be that close.
Oh, no.
And it wasn't like Isaac was just going extremely slow or in the race line and in his way.
Yeah.
He just caught dirty air, and going through that turn, he just lost it. The dirty air and everything, just pushing the car a little too hard. He just lost it. And it wasn't Isaac's fault, if you ask me. I think all of that frustration just built up, and, with the adrenaline and everything, that was just this fucking guy with the dirty air. Like, that's like when I stub my toe, or I'm sure y'all have done it too. You stub your toe on the couch. Fuck this couch.
Like, exactly.
It's not. Yeah. It's not the couch's fault that you kicked it, but somebody's got to take the aggression.
You even heard the commentator say, with everything that happened, and when anger builds up like that, when you're driving 200 miles an hour, you're gonna let out emotions, and it was tough. He had a good lap going, then messes it up, and that lap was just I think he actually pitted. He didn't even complete the lap.
Well, he asked if he had more time. He didn't have enough time. I think he had ruined the tires.
Yeah.
So he was gonna try to maybe get another lap, but I think there was like 30 seconds left. He would never made it to the line to push for another lap. So
now there was another driver that has a very warranted complaint with Hadjar, but thankfully he was able to make up for it in his race. But Carlos is the one that had a very, very bad incident with Hadjar.
Even after the penalties that hit qualifying, Carlos still started P16. And shout out Carlos. I actually had that noted to give him a shout out.
Yeah.
My boy came through and he took away a point. Hey, after the weekend he had, and after the weekend Williams had, you take the 1 point and you say, all right, cool.
Right.
Well, hopefully we bounce back in Austria.
Just speaking of Williams, Alex Albon. I mean, we've been praising him so much. He's been doing so good, and then just having that terrible weekend.
I mean, part of it was I don't even know if part of it was his fault. I mean,
no,
the guy was going down the road and his car just shedded. Just decided to shed engine cover. And so, I mean, what can you do? You know what I mean? Like,
right. And then in a race, you retire after I forget, where did he qualify?
He qualified
He was
in
in
Q3. He
Q-
was in
he was
Q3. I
Q3.
want to say he was like P8, P9, somewhere around there.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, if before the race started, you were telling me that if it was gonna be Alex or Carlos
Yeah.
competing for points, I would have been like, "Oh yeah, it's Alex," and no, it's Carlos. Yeah, It was tough to see that with how good of a start of the big season he's had.
Yeah.
and
He struggled the last few weeks.
Yes,
It's gonna be, and I'll say it now. It's gonna be interesting to see if they bounce back before summer break, considering we're down to like the last 3 races before summer break, or if they continue the struggles and hopefully they kind of reset at summer break. I think these tracks are gonna be good for them. I mean, they have a lot of straight line speed, maybe too much if it's causing the engine covers
Yeah.
to blow off, but they have a lot of straight line speed. These tracks are gonna work hopefully well for them.
If you're a midfield team, especially the next course, this is your chance.
Yeah.
This is one of the shortest lap times you're going to have at the next course all year long. There's not really anything but straights, turns. That's it at Red Bull Ring pretty much. So if you're a midfield team, you've got to be like, this is our chance. Like Williams has to take the opportunity next week. Sauber's been like sneaking up.
Yeah.
Hulkenberg
has been shout out to Hulk, man.
Yeah, he's been picking it
Got
up the
points
past couple
again.
weeks.
He finished what, P8?
Yeah, P8. And if there were some other penalties, he would have got another P4 this weekend.
Yeah.
So I know we'll get to that later.
Yeah, I got a few words to say about that.
But yeah, overall, like if you're a midfield team, like this is your this week and next week and maybe at Silverstone, but probably a lot less at Silverstone. Red Bull Ring's got to be the course where you have to make advantage of all the chances you will get.
Yeah, absolutely. We shouted out Carlos. We shouted out the Hulk. That's what I'll call him. He's in green.
yeah,
Got to shout out Ocon.
yeah.
Esty Bestie brought home some points for
Yeah.
Haas.
He's been doing well so far these past couple
But they
of
say
races.
the Frenchman that's fighting for the American team, the American fighting Frenchman or something like that. And then Alonso, bro. Alonso.
Yeah.
I don't I think Ivan, what was it he said? I don't know what deal he did with the devil.
Oh no, he did. He made a deal with the devil to get
But
this
he's got
stuff back.
2 races back-to-back points.
Oh yeah. And
After going almost all after going all first 8 races with no points, he got points back-to-back.
Now he's
I
flirting
told
flirting with exes now too.
Yeah,
and
now
everything.
there's rumors that he might be back with Flavio over at Alpine next year.
Right? Like he got everything going now.
I mean,
shout out to him.
Whatever deal he's making with Flavio or the devil, or maybe they're the same person.
The same person.
Right? They're one and the same in this instance.
Hey man, he's performing. He's continuing to outperform Lance Stroll as always.
Yeah, that's a good
I think Lance is only Australia was probably the peak. It was race 1 for Lance.
Yeah.
You hate to say it, man, but
I don't.
the guy just got I don't know what it. At what point does Lawrence say, "Man, my son just don't got it, man"? You know, we got to be there already. We got to.
You have to be there. There's no way you're sitting back thinking, "Yeah, my son's doing great."
Look, man, I've said it when it comes to like I said, I got kids. My kid plays baseball, so travel ball, whatever you call it. You got to be honest with yourself as a parent and what your kid has talent wise.
Yeah.
Does my kid deserve to be the starting shortstop, batting in the top, batting first of the lineup, lead off or the 2-hole every game? Or is my kid
Mauricio Dubon, utility
my kid's
guy.
the utility guy. He's gonna come in and run for the catchers, or he's he bats at the bottom of the lineup. You got to be honest with yourself, right?
Yeah,
bro. We're talking about this at 11, 12 years old in baseball. At what point does this billionaire say, you know what, maybe my kid just don't got it? Maybe he deserves to go race somewhere else, Formula E, WEC, maybe somewhere where he can maybe use his skill. He's got skill.
He's got skills.
To a point. He's not, he's not up there with the rest of these guys on the track, but
you can put him on a go-kart track and he can beat the 11 and 12-year-olds.
He's better than Nicholas Latifi, but take that as what you want.
Don't talk about Gotifi like that. Do not talk about Gotifi like that.
But when you're lumping him into guys who've come and gone, or even, you look at Nick DeVries. He came in, he struggled with Red Bull. They sent him fucking packing quick.
Yeah, that's right.
And now he's thriving in WEC.
Yeah.
At what point do you say, "Hey, Lance,
we should try something new
in other racing series? Why don't we go try? Come here, son. Let me talk to you for a minute." I don't know. It sucks to see when Alonso is putting that Aston Martin, who has looked like they're getting faster as the season goes on. We don't expect much from them. They're focused on 2026, and they're a bottom level, maybe mid-level team. But Alonso's putting it in points, and you can't get out of Q1, brother.
No,
I mean,
I think that's the only reason why Fernando is even flirting with Alpine is because I really do think it's either going to have to be Honda that makes changes or he's out.
Yeah.
Because there's no in between. Because there's no reason why Fernando, who has said multiple times, I want an Adrian Newey built car to, leave the team the year Adrian Newey gets there. There's got to be something where he's trying to tell the team, look, we need to make these changes or I'm gone. And then good luck trying to find someone to do what I can do.
Hey, I got options, boy. You better make this right. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. So, I feel like that's what he's waiting on. And before we move on, there was a little trivia question I had to ask you because I could not believe this when I saw this. But can y'all guess which driver on the current grid, they've had to have got one in the past, has the longest podium drought out of anybody on the grid right now?
Which driver
has the longest drought between podiums? The last podium till now.
Is it not Alonso?
It's not Alonso. Alonso got one in 22 or 23 whenever Aston Martin started making that little comeback those years.
Shit. Is it Hulkenberg?
On the grid.
Nope, it's not Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg's never gotten a podium.
Ocon just got podium last year in Brazil.
They're separate. The two longest droughts are separated by a month, literally.
Oh.
It's got to be Pierre. No, Pierre was on podium last year with Ocon. Man, I don't even know.
All right, I'll give it to y'all. Second to last is Lance Stroll.
Okay.
Got his in December. Got him in November of 2020. No, sorry, December 2020. The longest drought is actually Albon, who got his a month before that and has not gotten a podium ever since then.
That's crazy. I would have guessed Stroll, but I felt like that was too easy.
That's what I said too. And I looked at it and I was like, Albon got a podium the month before Stroll got his last podium.
Man.
And that's the last time either one of those two. And that was in 2020, by the way.
Look,
so that was December and November of 2020 that they both last got a podium.
I will still say my agenda that Williams is back is alive. I mean, they're sitting what? Give me a second. They're still sitting what? Fourth? Fifth?
Yeah, they're still sitting.
In the standings on the team? They're still fifth.
Yeah, and they still got a good gap between fifth.
They're at 55 points, and their closest opponent is Haas with 28. And then, obviously, they're behind Red Bull at 162. So, Williams at fifth, considering they were dead last year.
Yes.
I mean, you take that as a win. You take that they're back.
Absolutely.
They've struggled the past few weekends, yes. I think they can bounce back. Carlos didn't look bad. And honestly, if it wasn't for the power unit issue, maybe Alex stays up there,
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
They told him that they were monitoring the power issue within the first 10 or 15 laps, I want to say. And I was surprised he made it that long. When they came on the radio and said, hey, we're monitoring a power unit issue, my first guess was like, holy shit, Mercedes power units are doing it again. My second thought was, fuck, that sucks for Alex because does he DNF now? And he kept going, he kept going.
Have they mentioned if his off-road excursion had anything to do with it? Because that was a very violent off-road trip on land.
It was, and I'm actually surprised he didn't have floor damage, or if he did, I haven't seen anything.
He went through
but they said it was
really
a power unit issue. I don't know if it came from that. I want to say Nico maybe mentioned that it could have been because of that. But there was nothing that I saw at least that verified it for sure.
There's no way that off-road trip didn't do something to the car. It may have caused it, but like you said, there's no way. We've seen what a groundhog can do to these cars.
Yeah, there's
when
no
you
way
go violently into the ground like that and get
he
airborne.
Came up off the he went airborne for a second.
You saw air between the bottom of the car and
I'm actually surprised the way he came back on the track. I mean, he really had no control of it at that point, so it wasn't necessarily his fault. But the way he came back on the track, I'm surprised he didn't take out Hulkenberg. Because, I mean, he came out flying.
Yes.
And they were right there. He managed to, grab grip and keep going. But I was just like, man, that sucked.
Yes.
Because when you watch the replay, I mean, he hit the bumps. The car's rattling. We've seen it a million times in a million different tracks. Just the car's just bouncing around. But that last hit, he went airborne. I said, oh, shit. Hold on, Alex.
Right.
We've talked about who won. We've talked about qualifying. We talked about Ferrari. Red Bull, Max had a great finish for them. I think he said he maximized what he could out of the car. He didn't really have the pace to catch up to George, and Kimi was coming behind him, so he had to play a little defense, keep the gap. Both times Kimi almost overtook him. He was able to pit real quick and then play the pit game. A lot of drivers had bad luck, but Yuki.
Yeah.
That penalty might have been the worst penalty I've seen given out by the FIA in a while. Like, considering especially, so you mentioned, there could have been more penalties even after the race.
Yeah.
They had like 8 cars, 8 drivers get fucking noted for safety car infringement. The race ended under a safety car. It was still under a safety car after the race, and people passed. You're not allowed to pass under a safety car. If you don't know that, even after the race is over, you're not allowed to pass under safety car conditions. Max found that out last year in Baku because on the last lap, Checo and Carlos had their crash. It ended under a safety car. I think he passed somebody to like congratulate Charles or something on the win, or it was Oscar won in Baku. He passed, I think he passed Charles or Oscar, was congratulating them, whatever. You seen him wave out the car, but he passed. He got noted for it, got a warning. They mentioned on there for future infringements could result in penalties. Maybe that was just for him because all those guys walked off with a warning. Cool. Precedence was set in Baku. You don't want to give these guys a penalty right away unless you're trying to set an example. They didn't do that. But during qualifying, or not during qualifying, was it practice?
I think it was free
practice 3. Yeah, free practice 3. Oscar slams into the wall of champions, is limping around on the track on 3 wheels, and he's going slower than I think a safety car ever goes. Like he's limping around. Yuki passed him and got a 10-place grid penalty for that. So he qualified P11. He ended up getting knocked out in Q2. He's struggled in qualifying all season.
Yeah.
But he gets knocked out, ends up having to start P20 because 10 places just. It was absurd.
Yeah, absurd. Yeah.
To see that kind of penalty. Like, what do you want him to do? Drive 2 miles an hour behind a 3-wheeled McLaren? Like,
yeah.
I was kind of surprised that it wasn't a penalty or at least like a discussion with McLaren, because if your car is going that slow, I thought the rule was just like
you have to get off the track.
Yeah, you have to like leave the car there.
Yeah,
and
you
just
driving.
like,
I mean, we
bring a
saw
safety car
Checo
out.
get a penalty in. Wasn't it Canada last year?
It may have been. Honestly.
It might have been Canada, but we saw Checo get a penalty for driving a car back to the pits under unsafe conditions because his rear wing was fucked up and he was shedding fiber. Yeah, maybe Oscar wasn't shedding any debris, but like,
I mean,
3 wheels.
Yeah.
They didn't give Gasly a penalty at Monaco, but Gasly's situation was kind of hard because he didn't have any brakes.
Yeah,
but at the same time, like, you're supposed to like stop the car, so like that's where I don't know why they gave the penalty to Yuki here, is because it's like
that's what I'm saying.
It doesn't make any sense to me, because I 100% agree. It should have been at least, if anything, just a warning, or don't do 10 places. Like, do
not
a 3
10
place,
places.
do
Yeah.
3
10
places.
But
3
then you look at
places
that,
that's it.
and then you look at every collision we've seen for however many races it goes back.
Yeah.
When you crash into someone, you usually get a time penalty and penalty points. Or after the race, if they note it, maybe even a grid drop and penalty points. I'm not saying that's what Lando deserved. I mean, he already DNF'd, but to see him come out of that crash with Oscar with a 5-second time penalty because he had qualified, he had raced more than 90% of the race.
Yeah.
He got a 5-second time penalty, but no penalty points. This is the first collision we've seen probably in like 3 years that it resulted in no penalty points, if not more. I'd have to go back and look, but no penalty points. He crashed into the back of his teammate. 10-place grid penalty for Yuki for driving past a slow 3-wheeled McLaren. Everybody passes under safety car. There's no penalties there. George brake checks Max during the safety car.
Yep.
No penalty there. They lost that fucking protest. Look, man, there's a reason that we have these conversations. One of the biggest conversations around F1 fandom. It goes all the way back to even 2021. There's controversy whether, Should they have let the cars overlap? Should they have finished the race under a safety car? All that resulted in the championship, ending the way it did. The FIA don't know what the fuck they're doing. They don't. The FIA has no idea what they're doing anymore.
Yep.
They're not consistent. Each steward, they don't have a set of stewards, so they don't follow the same rules or guidelines. Well, they have their guidelines, but it all comes down to personal preference or even bias. We've seen that, the British bias or the Sky F1 bias, whatever you want to call it. I'm not even saying just as a Max fan, like it's just super inconsistent across the grid, and it's been getting worse and worse and worse every year. And it's like, at what point does the FIA say, maybe we need to reevaluate, look ourselves in the mirror? I don't think Ben will ever do it, but it's hard to watch as a fan, knowing, okay, well, my guy got a penalty for doing this. This guy does the same thing. Oh, he just got a warning, or he just got a 5-second penalty. No penalty points on his license, but you get 3 for bumping tires.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did Max deserve penalty points on his license for that incident? Yeah, probably, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was intentional, but half the collisions we see, racing incidents, always results, if you're found at fault, always results in penalty points.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, there's none there. You got Yuki. I mean, it's just the inconsistency for me. It's not necessarily like Lando's incident or Yuki's incident or George and Max, whatever. Like this race in general, it's the inconsistency. It's the only consistent thing about the FIA is the inconsistency, and it's just mind blowing. I came into the fandom and F1 fandom, and Myra was like, "That's the biggest complaint among fans," and she was right. Like over the last couple of years, that I've been watching the sport, I'm a new fan. I'm a newer fan. I'm not scared to say it.
Yeah,
that's the biggest complaint, and it's across people who've been watching for 20 years, people who've been watching for 6 months. You can see it, and I'll stop ranting there because I know y'all got some thoughts on it too. But it's crazy to see, and as a Max fan, he takes a lot of. Granted, he drives, but man, it's wild. It's just insane.
I mean, yeah, coming in, I told Ivan, I'm like, man, this is gonna be the one episode where I agree on Junior with the Red Bull situation.
I mean,
because it is insane, especially with George brake checking Max.
Bro,
he was just egging him on.
Yeah, and you could see the onboard, not to cut you off, but you see the onboard of George. When he hit the brakes, his head slammed forward. Yeah. Oh, I was warming the brakes. Brother, the race is over.
Race is over. Race is over. We're not racing anymore. We're finishing this race under a safety car. He did it on purpose. We can all agree on it.
You give him maybe an ounce of credit. I think it borders unsportsmanlike. But maybe you give an ounce of credit. Maybe they do flag it and Max gets a penalty and he don't race in Austria or whatever the hell it is. But
if Max does it,
if Max does it, then what?
Then
it's Busch League. It's
10th
Busch League.
place grid.
I don't know.
I think this is part of the reason why I think, because we've talked about this in our group text this weekend post race. I feel like both of them heard the audio of what they said during the safety car. And then they got all buddy-buddy with each other on the cool-down room and on the podium, because legit, both of those saw both of their moves, and they were both trying to get each other to trip up. And I think they must have heard that, and they would have been like, oh, he's trying to do what I'm trying to do. I feel like both Max and George are starting to realize they're not too different from each other.
Yeah.
But they're still kind of different.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's where the gamesmanship with those two I can kind of understand, because if that's like Kimi doing that or something, that's kind of, we don't know much about Kimi still as a racer, but in general, that's like kind of unbecoming of him. With George, I mean, I'm just going to use this because this has been used before, but we've heard the Osama bin Russell stuff in the past before. So that's been something that's been hanging around with George for his career.
I will say George is very, very smart when it comes to the technical side of things.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if anything, that's one thing that we praise Max on too. When it comes to the technical stuff and his wheel knowledge is just like miles higher, further along than 90% of the grid.
Yeah.
But George is probably one of those on the grid that are like challenging when it comes to the technical knowledge. And I don't know if you read the protest report afterwards. his argument, I'll give him credit. His argument was like, oh, well, I was warming the brakes, and you can see on the data here that this is actually what I was doing. I wasn't trying to brake check him. I thought I saw he was off to the side. I didn't realize he was going to pass me. And, I got too far away from the safety car because I was doing this. I'll give him credit. He had his argument pretty solid, and that's why they ended up not doing anything. But it's just weird. It's just wild to see. You've seen it across multiple occasions. This race alone, we've seen it across the sport for years now.
There were multiple drivers. I don't know what was going on in that safety car. There were multiple drivers acting
complaining
like
about how slow it was.
It was so very weird, that safety car. And I mean, obviously everybody saw the Max and George incident, but I don't even think that's the worst one. The Ocon and Sainz one, I don't know if y'all got a chance to see. That was the worst one to me. Ocon, like, legit was going to the pit lane, stopped at the end for no reason for 5 seconds, and it was like, I'm going to take off now.
Yeah.
Sainz had to, like, adjust to not hit him and everything.
Drove in the grass just to avoid him.
Just to avoid him. And then going back to, like, what you said, it's going to lead back to 2021, but Max Mosley used to be in charge of the FIA. He was a singular president. After Max Mosley, he fortunately passed during his time as the president. Ever since then, we've been using multiple people. I don't know whose idea it was or who thought it was too stressful for one person to just be the rule maker for every track, or like just a president of every track just to say, hey, this is what the rules are for today. But that's been the biggest game changer. Like you said, you can't have a group of 3 which alternate like every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks deciding the rules. You have to have somebody that's there consistently, because then you get situations like this. And I think that's another reason I was talking about this pre-show. I think that's the reason kind of like why Sky brings on Nico so often as they do now, because Nico, as a former champion, has a little bit more leeway to call out like Max or George or anybody else and not say that they're being biased. Because first off, Nico ain't British. So like he clearly doesn't have any ties to the network. And second off, we've seen it plenty of times. Nico doesn't have a filter. So Nico will just tell it how it is. So I feel like that's why it's like everybody in the sport sees it. And I don't think they do it intentionally. That's the thing that I think gets lost in the argument all the time, is that I feel like a lot of it's coincidence, but it's not all of it. But I do feel like a lot of the time it just so happens that it's Max, and Fernando's been fighting for this for like 20 darn years. Yeah. So like a lot of people have been saying this for years, that they have a bias against people that aren't British, when at the end of the day, I just feel like, man, these incidents always, when half the grid is British, like that's also the other problem. It's like you get an accident, and what are the percentages that you get an accident with a British driver? Yeah, they're pretty damn high in the damn grid. So it's like when one of them's not at fault, like we just saw with Lando, and it's actually is his fault and he's not penalized, that's when it starts looking like kind of crazy and a little side eye at everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, it's just, I don't know. There's going to be a change, and I hope that there is eventually. It'll do nothing but better the sport. Even if you have a set of 2 sets of stewards, like one does the first half and one does the second half of the season, whatever, there's got to be some fix. And honestly, I don't know if we even see that until the president change. If there's a president, FIA president change, we'll see. I mean, I just don't see it doesn't seem like there's a plan anytime soon, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So until then, like I said, the most consistent thing about FIA rulebook is the inconsistency, We have a week off, and then we go into Austria. Red Bull Ring. It's Red Bull's home race. The Orange Army will be out strong. I'm hoping for a great race from Max. He's strong there. It's going to be an interesting race, but we get a week off in between. We're going to be able to rest, relax. It wasn't a super exciting race in Canada, but it was eventful towards the end. We had plenty to talk about.
Yeah, Lando saved the day. Made it exciting at the end.
Yeah, Lando turned as Ivan called it, the slow burner.
I enjoyed the 2 seconds that Ferrari were in second place in the constructors.
Yeah.
Kind of came out of nowhere, too, that Lando move, because, I mean, I was just waiting to see. I'm like, I see him getting closer, but, I mean, he just dove for it and said, all right, let's start this right now. I'm not waiting no more. So
I think my favorite edit was, this is what they thought he was going to be able to do, and it shows Lightning McQueen riding the wall.
Oh, my God. Yeah. This weekend was definitely a slow burn for me. I'm still on the good side of them, but these new tires have definitely changed the lineup up a lot. I don't know if it's for the good or for the bad yet, just because these new C6 tires,
nobody likes
they last like 8 laps.
Yeah.
And I understand, like, at this point, if you're going to have that, you might as well go back to the day when we had like the rainbow lineup with all the tires, like super soft, softs, mediums, medium hard. Like at one point, just go look it up. There were like 12 tires you could pick from, and all the drivers were driving with different tires. And I mean, this was only like 6 years ago that was an option. I feel like at this point, if you're going to introduce the C6, you might as well just bring back the super softs and bring out everybody on those and just say, let's try it like this, like we used to have it. Because at the end of the day, we just want more than one stop races. So I feel like that's helping out with that. But at the same time, these tires are not warming up and not lasting, and they're graining like hell right now.
By the time you get them warm to the perfect temperature, it seems like you got like 4 laps on them, and they're like, all right, we're losing everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Guys. I mean, we saw they started on softs, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of teams started on soft.
Max started on softs, didn't he? And he lasted like 12 laps.
Yeah.
12 laps on a 70-lap race. But yeah, I don't know, man. It was interesting to see the ending really brought together the race.
Yeah.
The safety car, everything that came with it really brought it together. Any last thoughts? Like I said, we got a week off, and then we'll be back next week to talk about our whatever predictions we might be able to. I mean, our predictions might be curses at this point. I mean, I thought McLaren was going to dominate, and they actually looked vulnerable for once this season. I don't know. We'll talk about it more next week. But any last thoughts on Canada? RIP to Mr. Groundhog.
I mean, Ferrari has just. I can't even say anything else.
It's the strategy, man. I mean, they screwed away the strategy with Charles.
Literally, Charles. They went on.
They put him in the traffic.
Like the engineer said, "Hey, we think we're gonna go with Plan B."
Oh yeah.
Charles went, I want to go with Plan C. Then Charles is like, "Why did we pit right now?" He's like, "Oh, we're on Plan B." Fuck you mean we're on Plan B?
He's like, I just told you the tires are fine.
He like Charles said, I want to go Plan C, and he said copy. Like you heard him. You heard him say Plan C. So I don't know. I'm used to it by now. Still doesn't make it okay. Congratulations to WEC, 24-hour Le Mans. Ferrari won.
Yeah.
3 years in a row. At least we're winning in something.
Yeah.
I mean,
maybe they need to swat. Bring over the strategists from there. And
we might have to
see what they can do for F1.
I think that is a good idea. Just bring over the strategists from there. What we're gonna probably talk about next week is that those TD directive didn't affect in Spain, but if this continues for another week, maybe we may have found that it did affect McLaren at least slightly, because that wasn't normal at Canada.
Literally anything.
Yeah, they were towards the front, but there was some struggling there. Like I said, they looked vulnerable for a change.
Especially Piastri. I'm like, not many people talked about it. Piastri did look
I mean, he
tiny
still qualified P3, but I mean, once Kimi snatched it from him, I mean, he had trouble.
You let an 18-year-old pass. like you gonna
Hey, the kid's the truth, man. The kid's the truth.
That's the part where if you're Lando, you gotta be so mad. He had him the whole weekend till Q3. He was beating Oscar's ass the whole weekend in Q3. I'm P7 and he's P3.
But that's what it comes down to it too, man. I mean, that last lap he had in qualifying, he had that mistake, and I mean, we're talking about the mentality, but
yeah, man.
I don't know, man. I just hope Max can get a win somewhere in these next few races, just to kind of bring home, maybe in Red Bull Ring next week or in 2 weeks he gets a win. And I want to see Yuki back up in the points, man.
Yeah.
He's run into some bad luck, and he hasn't had the strongest qualifying performances, but he's got to be up there soon. He's got to be up there soon to hopefully, make something happen.
Sprint weekend, right?
Ooh, is it a sprint weekend? It might be.
I'm just used to Red Bull Ring having sprint weekends every year, so that's the reason I wanted to ask.
Let's see.
I don't think
we're gonna check this real quick.
Is not a sprint weekend.
Yeah.
No.
Dang.
No, it's not. I don't think we have a sprint weekend again until.
Don't tell me it's Austin. Okay, Spa. Okay. We have a sprint at Spa?
Silverstone's not a weekend. We have a sprint at Spa this year.
Why the heck you gonna put it? Never mind. We'll get to that.
We'll talk about it later.
We'll get to that when we get to that.
As always, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Follow us on all our socials. Shout out our sponsors: Big City Wings, Paul's Wing Joint, Houston's Wing Joint, Zing Zang Responsibly, America's #1 Bloody Mary Mix. Until next week, we'll give our predictions and previews for Austria at the Red Bull Ring. We're out of here. Peace.
See ya.